Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, new downloadable skins for Patrick and Mark in their skivvies. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellis. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We have got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including everything out of Nintendo's shareholders call. And then on Thursday, we are going to be coming up with new jobs for Toad and whatever games would be built around that new job for Toad. But Mark, in the meantime, how are you?
Doing good. I'm really excited because today and Thursday,
yes,
we are guesting on Playing Favorites with Shane Lennon.
That's right.
Which, if you don't know, is a show where Shane has guests come on. They talk about a movie, like why they like it, what it means to them, and then they reenact the movie off of memory.
Right, and usually with a comedic bent. You don't try to reenact it as faithfully as you can.
Sure,
right. It's a little bit of screw around time.
We did this a couple years ago, maybe.
Right
for
about the time
Star Wars.
Yeah, for Star Wars 1977. Not any of this special edition stuff, but the original cut. And then so this time, Mark, what did we do?
The Empire Strikes Back.
Of course we did The Empire Strikes Back. So if you are listening to this right now and you want to hear Mark and I talk about Star Wars more, because sometimes we talk about Star Wars here, you can check out Playing Favorites with Shane Lennon and hear us talk about The Empire Strikes Back. We rag on people hating The Last Jedi for a while, and Shane let us know that we were also ragging on the trailer for Ready Player One for a while.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
This is a long time ago. We
recorded a long time ago, and yet it's still topical.
Everything is still relevant. So please check that out. It would we would love it. I'm sure Shane would appreciate a couple listens there too. So thank you for that. Mark, have you noticed that you've been getting new friends on your Switch?
Yeah, there's been a slight uptick.
A slight uptick for me as well. I love it. Thank you, everyone who's been sending us friend requests.
It was so much fun. I turned on my Switch, had like 5 new friend requests.
Yeah, and you're like, 5 new friends.
We'll include our friend code, of course, in this episode and Thursday's episode as well. So if you haven't
how many weeks did we pledge that we were going to do this?
But we should just keep doing it.
We're just going to keep it rolling. I like getting the friend requests.
Me too.
Another thing that I like, Mark, is that we have been getting suggestions for our upcoming episode about the top 8 RPGs on Nintendo platforms.
Right, happening August 2nd.
Happening August 2nd, and that August 2nd is the actual day of the episode, right?
Right, so I think you will want to get yours in a little bit early.
Right.
Do it now, why wait?
Do it now. Thank you so much already to Steven, Alex, Colin, Lewis, and Dustin for contributing their lists. There's some good lists in here, Mark.
Oh, also, last week, of course, we ranked definitively the worlds from Super Mario Brothers 3. And we
did a great job.
It was definitive. So whether we did a good job or a bad job is immaterial. But we had a Twitter user reach out to us with their list. This is at Zelda2AOL.
Okay.
And their list is number 1 is Skyland. Number 2 is Desertland. Number 3, Giantland. Number 4, Grassland.
Okay.
Number 5, Waterland. Number 6, Pipeland. Number 7, Iceland.
What?
Number 8, Dark.
Okay, so I like a lot of this list. I do not understand how Dark Land is at the end.
I get it. I mean, even though we enjoyed the punishment, it is a lot.
It is a lot. That is true. And requires a lot of you just throwing yourself at it over and over again, making sure that you have all the right resources to tackle it. Okay, maybe I see it, but I love it. But way to go putting Skyland right at the top.
Yeah, I mean, when you're right, you're right.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. All right, Mark, you want to get into what we've been playing this week?
Let's do it. Patrick, tell me about Pocket Rumble.
Okay, so Pocket Rumble finally came out after a year and a half of delay. And it's good. It's hard. Um, the game is very easy to approach. It's a one-on-one fighter in the vein of Neo Geo Pocket. So it's just 2 attack buttons, and everyone has the same special move inputs. That you're either pushing down and forward and light attack, or hard attack, and then down and away and hard attack or light attack. So everyone's there are only 8 characters in it, but it's like imminently approachable, and everything sort of like transfers over from one character to the next. So like, there are differences between them, but everyone there's a commonality between the characters that isn't common in most other fighting games. Everyone has the same amount of life. Life is more like you have notches instead of like a health bar that kind of goes down gradually. And the game is just very fast, very responsive. And some of a couple of the first couple matches I played online, I was getting some kind of like lag that was breaking the experience. But as soon as it sort of settled into a solid connection, it was fun. Everyone playing this game is good at it, which I guess makes sense. It just every now and I feel overwhelmed at times going online and playing, but it's fun. I'm really happy with it so far, and would like to sink more time into it. My girlfriend's parents were in town this weekend, so I haven't had as much time to play as I would like, but it's here. Mark.
Yeah, and it's only $10.
It's only $10. One thing I discovered, so I was playing it in handheld mode, and excuse me, in handheld mode, it has these scan lines to make it look like an old, whatever the screen would have been on Neo Geo Pocket, like some weird, who even knows, right? And the scan lines look great in handheld mode, and I tried putting it up on the TV, and it just like, it's like too blocky and too ugly, even really to like deal with at all. But there is in the options menu, you can set the scan lines to like 0, and then it just looks like a nice like pixely game. So this is the only time that I've ever been like, oh, I don't know that I want to play this on the big screen because of the way it looks blown up. So even knowing that I can set the scan lines off, I've still been playing it mostly in handheld mode, which is not typical for me on Switch games, even on something with a more, like 8-bit or 16-bit art style. I tend to like throwing those up on the screen and just basking in the huge blocky pixels, but not with this. So something else I did this weekend was I put together some more Labo.
Oh wow!
So this was a girlfriend's parents and girlfriend and myself, the 4 of us, an activity for the 4 of us to do together. We built the fishing rod, and the base that the Switch itself goes in, which they call the ocean, and it is fun to build these things.
Yeah, what did girlfriend's parents think? Because they are, like
Mhm.
older people, maybe not even.
They are in fact
not
older people.
really the Switch's target audience. I would say definitely not Labo's target audience.
No, but I mean,
what is that?
what is Labo's target audience? I'm not even really sure. I would be interested to know if like kids are into it. But like some of it is complicated enough that you're like, I don't know that a 6-year-old would dig this or like not get frustrated by it.
Even the fishing pole?
Even the fishing pole, yeah. I mean, it's it claims to take like 90 to 120 minutes. And I think we ended up, it took us almost 2 hours to do it. Like we started it, went to brunch, came back and finished it.
Oh, that's pretty hefty.
Yeah.
I guess I was expecting it to be more on the side of like the the cars, like maybe like 30 minutes.
No, well,
because how long did it take us to build the piano?
The piano they say takes 120 to 180 minutes, 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, because I mean, you have the fishing pole here, and I'm looking at it, and it looks complex. Yeah. I think my expectation was that it would not be that it would. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to take that long.
There's like a string that goes into the base that the thing sits in, that the Switch sits in, but like also look, there's this like telescoping part of it, like pull that out.
Oh, I see.
And then there's like a whole reel that you can like actually crank, and it makes a little clicky noise.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's all cardboard and string and stuff. So like it's complicated and just fun. Like it's like I know I've said this before about Labo, but it's like putting together a puzzle. Um, and then
So everyone had a good time?
So everyone had a good time, and then had a little bit of fun playing the fishing game that you actually play with it. It's of course the most shallow thing that you'll ever play, but it's still like Anne, Sarah's mother, was playing it for like half an hour, and then we're like, okay, Anne, we gotta go. But it's neat that it creates these sort of like arcade, like in-home arcade experiences where you're like, oh, I'm interacting with a controller and the screen in a way that I wouldn't normally be able to with whatever controllers and stuff are normally in your house.
That's fun. It was kind of a quieter like gaming week for me.
Yeah.
I wasn't playing anything new. I was mostly like played a little bit of Splatoon 2, played a little bit
nice.
of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, played a little bit more of Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, still trying to get all of the like K levels.
Yeah.
And there was one that I had like stopped on weeks ago because I just like found it so vexing. And of course, this time when I like boot it back up, I get through it. Like I was like, why was this hard the first time?
What was wrong with me?
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to. Well, I guess we can get into it. But just like there's a couple of like media experiences coming this week that I'm looking forward to having something like big to play again.
Yeah, well, and this is and we will get to that in a second. But I have also been playing a little bit of Mario Tennis Aces and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as well. And it is, I love how rewarding it is to go back to these games from like the recent past and just like play a little bit more of. Like the games are built in such a way, not Odyssey and not Breath of the Wild, but like in a way that is so easy to go back and like play a little bit and just really have fun with really good games.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I haven't done in Odyssey.
Yeah.
And I love just running around in the world of Breath of the Wild, but I did not do either of those games because I feel like the muscle memory of the controls have been lost for me.
Sure.
And like I would have to regain that. And that's not really what I want when I'm like, oh, I have 20 minutes. I'm just going to sit down and play something.
Right. You want to play Mario Kart, which is going to be in your fingers forever.
Exactly.
And Breath of the Wild also has a thing where like you kind of forget your way around. Like when I was playing that game, I knew paths. I knew I knew how to get around in that game. And I feel like if I were to go into it now, it would feel like a little bit of an alien countryside. And I know that's what I liked about it in the first place. But it wouldn't have that same sort of like stickiness that it did when I was playing it a ton. Okay, that's what we've been playing this last week. But let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
All right, today, July 10th, Shining Resonance Refrain comes out. I had played the demo for this a couple of weeks ago.
Right, and you are going to
not buy it.
Skip it.
Yep. 20XX is out.
Yep, 20XX is a game that I am interested in. It is a Mega Man like
X types game.
Yeah, it's kind of it plays a little bit like one of those Mega Man X Zero games. There was a trilogy of them on Game Boy Advance. Except this has simultaneous 2-player co-op, which is like a dream come true. It's exactly how you want to play like a dumb little action game like that. So I am really looking forward to 20XX. I got to play it some at the PlayStation Experience last year, on PlayStation, of course. But since it's coming to Switch, that's where I'm interested in grabbing it.
Anything else from today that you wanted to call out before we move on?
No, there is a Hotel Transylvania game coming out today.
Monsters Overboard,
which is what, like the third movie in the Hotel Transylvania series. I don't have any interest in this other than it's like, I don't know. It's nice to see like those kind of like terrible cash grab ports coming to Switch that they're like, oh yeah, the market is for everything and everyone can be here.
And then on Thursday, July 12th, Bomb Chicken is coming out. I feel like this is the third week in a row we've talked about Bomb Chicken.
I think you're right.
But let's just move past, onward and upward. Johnny Turbo's Arcade Express Raider. The Neo Geo game of the week is The Super Spy.
Not a Super Spy and not Super Spy, but The Super Spy.
And then on July 13th, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is out on both the 3DS and the Switch. And of course, Octopath Traveler, which I'm planning on picking up.
Yep, as am I. I think I have to buy both of these games. Because Sarah, out of the blue, we weren't even talking about video games, just said to me, you know what I'm excited about? Captain Toad. So I think I need to buy it again. I think I need to buy it again on day one.
I feel like portable Captain Toad is a pretty good proposition because you guys have the Wii U version.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I know. When I played all the way through that game, like cleared it out.
Well, it'll be fun that there are some new puzzles in there.
And honestly, I will play all those old puzzles again and relish the opportunity to do it.
So Octopath Traveler, I am excited about.
Reservations?
Well, my worry is always with these like throwback RPGs is that the throwback elements are going to kind of like wear on me after a long period of time. Like random battles, even in the demo, I was a little bit like, okay, I get it, but why? And so so that aspect of it, I'm a little not like super pumped about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it for sure.
I'm looking forward to it too, and I'm not looking forward to it in the way that I feel like with so many games, I'm looking forward to getting it and like mainlining it and loving that. That was my experience this year with like Detroit and with God of War, and last year with Odyssey and to a lesser extent Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild we played for a long time. But this is a game that I also feel like I want to play a little bit, every night or take some nights off and just have that world and that experience gradually unfold for me.
Yeah, I'm excited to experience it, but it's not like it's not like I'm hyped to extreme levels.
Right. Yes, I agree with that.
And that's a very like comfortable place to be.
Yeah, to realize that you don't have to go all in on everything.
And then also on the 13th, the Splatoon 2 Pearl and Marina amiibo are out.
Okay, now speaking of all in on everything, you know that I already have these pre-ordered.
Oh yeah,
and they will be delivered to me presumably on the 13th.
Fingers crossed.
Maybe I had to pick them up from Best Buy. I don't know. I don't remember how I purchased them.
Hopefully you get to pick them up. I prefer pickup if you're trying to get.
Me too.
If you want to like make sure you get it that day, because then it's like you're in control.
Yeah, then
you're not waiting for FedEx or
like USPS.
Yeah, or like Track or On Track or whatever it's called.
Oh, don't get me started on all.
I won't.
GHL.
I won't.
Come on. All right, Mark. Let's get out of the new releases. Now it's time for a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, today we are having one of those, like, would you rather superhero style conversations. Would you rather fight the Joker or Thanos?
This feels unwinnable, no matter which way you go. So it's more like, how do you want to die?
Yeah. So if you're fighting Thanos, there's a very good chance, and you're gone. Right.
But is that worse than if you're fighting the Joker, which means it might be protracted over tens of years?
Right.
And it's going to be like. You'll always be miserable. Even when he's quote unquote gone, you're like looking over your shoulder.
Right.
You know he's going to be back.
He's still out there. You know it for sure.
He's
going to kidnap your loved ones and like put you through horrible stress tests to like make you laugh or something. I still don't get the Killing Joke. Yeah. So, I mean, I think in that, if you're just asking, how do you want to die? By Joker or by Thanos, I feel like the answer is by Thanos, hands down. Right?
Yes.
I mean, he's going to snap you out of existence. Or if he's infinity begauntleted, he is like a giant of a man and would just crush you, right?
Easily,
Like,
yes.
Easily and quickly.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to take any pleasure in making people suffer, right?
No, yeah, it doesn't seem like it. So in this case, are we saying would we rather have like, look, not that we won't put up a good fight,
Sure. Right.
right, and like,
Well, and this was the kind of pivot point for me, is that like I do feel like there is a version of reality or like a set of circumstances where I could defeat the Joker.
yes, I think the you are more likely to be successful against the Joker than you are against Thanos.
Yes.
Because the Joker, for the most part, doesn't have like any supernatural or like magical ability.
Right. I mean, if he does have magical ability, it's the same sort of like magical ability that Batman has, where it's just like for narrative convenience, he's always exactly where he needs to be.
Yeah.
But you know, like in the real world, you know, I can buy a gun, I can take shooting lessons, I can, you know, take some drugs to calm my nerves, so that like when the Joker's around, I can, you know, draw fast and shoot straight. I feel like I could take down the Joker if pressed. However, I don't care how much training or what kind of equipment I've got. Thanos is going to destroy me.
We all saw Infinity War.
Right. Also, spoilers for Infinity War, I guess. But yeah, he kills like everyone.
And those people have superpowers
Right.
or a lot of money.
Right. Also, now that I'm saying it, that like you could go out in a snap of a finger, it seemed like it was a painful experience for Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's right.
He was not happy
No.
as he's being ripped into maybe another dimension. What's happening to them there? We don't know. No one knows.
We don't know. They're being like blinked out of existence.
Okay. If we are in these respective, so if we're fighting these villains, does that mean that we are in their respective worlds? So if we are fighting Thanos, does that mean that we are in the Marvel universe?
Does that help you in any way?
Well, because then you get to choose sort of what world you get to live in. If you are being hunted and have to fight Joker, does that sort of implicitly mean that you're in Gotham City?
Ugh, that does not sound fun.
I do not want to live in Gotham City.
Yeah, I don't either. Or really, the DC universe doesn't seem super fun to be in.
What's your favorite
In
DC
general.
universe city? If you had to pick one to live in, where would you live?
Mm.
Bloodhaven?
Not hip enough.
No, definitely not hip. I'd go to Coast City, man.
Yeah, I'd go to Coast City too.
I understand that we live in Los Angeles. We live in Coast City,
Yeah.
effectively.
Okay, well there we go.
All right, live in Coast City.
We're honest.
Maybe Central City, the gem cities. You know, you don't care for them.
Who wants to live in? Isn't that like supposed to be St. Louis? I mean, no, like big ups to everybody in St. Louis, of course.
Well, we'll never know how Mark feels about people in St. Louis. We were accompanied today by the Victoria Symphony as conducted by Tanya Miller. Mark, let's move into the news.
All right, so Nintendo held their 78th annual shareholders meeting on Monday, and naturally, there's some like news trickling out of that. Speaking about 2018 games, so a shareholder asked about the possibility of like continuously releasing what they called attractive software on the Switch. Now, former Nintendo president Tatsumi Kimishima answered that the company is, quote, not yet at the point where we can announce our entire product lineup, including the products that will be released during the holiday season, end quote.
Weird, right? The sort of implication that there are other big first-party Nintendo games that are going to come out this year beyond Smash, Pokemon, and Mario Party, right? Like those are already three pretty big titles.
Yeah, it is interesting. So I feel like there, like we talked about last week, there could be a 3DS title,
right?
You know, that they are holding back.
The one last 3DS game that's going to get us
the
all
gut
back
punch.
to 3DS. Yeah.
Historically, they've had a direct in September, and it wouldn't shock me to see something happen there. I don't know that it. I mean, I guess like in the context of the question, they're talking about first party games.
Yeah. I would guess that that's what it means too, and especially because it's attractive software. Because I feel like we're all kind of waiting right now for the other shoe of the Classic Edition to drop, because this is about the time when that happens, and maybe it won't this year. But it is the time for a N64 Classic or Game Boy Classic. Would make a ton of sense. But he specifically says, or it's just specifically about attractive software.
Well, and maybe some of that is whatever they have planned for the Nintendo Switch, like online.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, speaking of which, the online service launches in September, but even though it's like halfway through July, we still don't know a ton of details about it.
Yeah. For example, we only know some of the games that are being offered right away. Like half of them are still a mystery,
and we don't really know like what the online functionality of those things are.
We still don't know if we're streaming these things or downloading them,
right? Or like how that will work at all.
Yeah.
So this was brought up in the forum, and again, Kimishima answered saying, quote, "We should be able to give you a little more information as we get closer to the official launch in September. Our aim is to provide consumers with a variety of ways to play and the ability to use the system in a more convenient way. I will have to ask for your patience until we are ready to discuss any further details."
So we're going to find out more sometime between now, the middle of July, and launch sometime in September.
I mean, I guess really all it takes is a 20-minute direct that they can drop at any time.
Sure. It's crazy to me that we don't know more about this thing.
I wonder, I guess, like, Nintendo obviously tends to hold a lot of stuff close to their vest, and then they like to, at what is in a lot of ways the last moment, just like reveal everything and have it out there before like a product launches. Do you find that is an effective way to manage like hype for something? Do you think that's an effective way to market something?
So I do think that there are some ways that is an effective way to market, right? Like if we are speculating about what a product is for a long time, I think that just makes us more excited about the product. The difference here is that the online service isn't a product, it's a service, right? And in a lot of ways, it is just making up for what isn't there, but that is standard on the other platforms. So I almost feel like it does them a disservice. Like if they were able to say like, here's what the online service is, and here's all of the things that it's bringing you. Here's what it looks like. Blah blah blah. That it would assuage some of the I don't want to say anxiety necessarily, but like we don't know exactly what this thing is.
I think that's true. I think but I also think that like we talked about in our E3 episode, and you had a really fancy word for it that I can't remember, but just this idea that like we're constantly craving new information. Neophilia. So if they had announced like all the details of Nintendo Switch online service when like May or whenever it was that they first talked about it, it's like all of that gets so lost because it feels like not a few months, like a million years ago.
Yeah.
And so when it actually launches in September, it already feels like old news. Like an example of this for me is, every June Apple reveals their next like operating system.
Yeah.
And then in the past couple of years, they've been releasing like betas and even like public betas. So you can download that operating system to your device in June, even though it's not officially released until like September or October.
Yeah.
So when it's officially released, it feels like, who cares? Like you're already waiting for iOS 13, right? Because you've had iOS 12 for a year, for like 6 months at that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose it is also possible that the online service isn't enough of a like single punch to really break through anything in the lead up to E3. Like it was just gonna be drowned out by everything else that was being announced during that time. And then during E3 itself, like Smash was obviously their centerpiece. And even now, like we're going into San Diego Comic-Con and like all these other big events, and maybe they just needed to be a little bit quieter so they can be like, by the way, here's what you can do with the Switch Online service, and now you have to pay for the right to play online.
So a little bit more news from the shareholders meeting. Speaking of indie games on Switch, Nintendo is not looking to slow the release of indie games like anytime soon. Senior Executive Officer Susumu Tanaka said that the company is targeting between 20 and 30 games per week,
which is a lot.
That's a ton.
It's a ton of games. What are they doing now? Like we ignore a lot of games on the new release list, but it's something in like there are about a dozen games that come out every week. They're talking about like doubling that. So it's a lot of games.
Kimishima added, "We are currently working towards reaching 1,500 software titles developed for Nintendo platforms using Unity. So Unity alone, 1,500,000 titles.
Just 1,500 titles, not 1,500,000.
Oh yeah, that's a lot more.
That would be a lot more.
1,500 titles. So, I think it's great to have a lot of content available on Switch.
You worried about bloat on this?
I'm not worried about bloat. I'm worried, like always, about discoverability.
Yeah.
I think bloat is really easy to ignore as long as the cream rises to the top.
Yeah.
But that's of course the problem for any platform.
Right.
Ever.
Everyone has a hard time with curation. And yeah, I mean, I know Nintendo's obviously been like tweaking what their online store looks like. And I hope they continue to, develop that with this influx of 20 to 30 games every week. How are you going to find 20 to 30 games every week? How are you going to find the one you're interested in?
Right, because I mean, isn't that like more than is even on the recently released page?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So every day is a brand new page of recently released.
Kimishima continued to toe the company line about mobile games raising awareness for Nintendo IP and driving users back to Nintendo platforms. Regarding monetization, Kimishima stressed needing specific plans for each game. Quote, "We want to offer applications that meet consumer demands while pursuing payment methods which consumers find to be fair so that this can grow to be a pillar of our business."
Interesting, right? That we've seen them approach it in basically every conceivable way so far, right? And I know what my preference is. My preference is I pay for it once and then I can play it as long as I want. Mario Run was the perfect model for me, but I know that it's not for other people. People were very upset to have to pay $10 for Super Mario Run. So I don't know. I guess it's smart that they're exploring a bunch of different options. The thing that I thought was interesting about his statement is that he's still saying that like the point of the mobile stuff isn't to make money on mobile games. It's to make people buy Switches and 3DSs and play games with that IP on their hardware.
Yeah, it makes sense because Nintendo has always been a company about like controlling their own platform.
Yeah.
And they don't control, your phone or your tablet or wherever you're playing these games. There is so much money to be made in mobile gaming though.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I wonder if like eventually there will be more of like a middle ground or like new IPs that spring up, like this one that's forthcoming.
Oh yeah. Some like kind of JRPG kind of thing.
Yeah, that it's like it just becomes like its own thing.
Yeah, I mean it's so like it seems like what does that tipping point have to be? Because like Fire Emblem Heroes is making a ton of money, and obviously Pokemon Go is a phenomenon.
Pokemon Go's a phenomenon. Like Nintendo is only like tangentially related to that.
Sure.
And Fire Emblem Heroes makes a lot of money, but not relative to other like
other
gigantic mobile games.
Yeah,
it makes like a respectable amount.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Mobile is such like an interesting. Nobody, even though Nintendo has released like three mobile games at this point.
Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem, Mario.
I still don't feel like
Tomodachi Life.
Like Miitomo?
Miitomo, yes.
And we're anticipating the Mario Kart game. I still don't really feel like I have a good grasp on what Nintendo looks like on a mobile platform.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Topic near and dear to my heart, theme parks. Super Nintendo World is coming to Universal Studios Tokyo in time for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Actually, I think the Universal Studios park in Japan is in Osaka.
Oh, sorry.
I made that mistake. And he also talked about it's eventually coming to Orlando and Hollywood. He said, quote, "The question was raised if we are planning to pivot into becoming a sort of giant profit-seeking conglomerate organization, but we would rather grow profits as a result of continually challenging ourselves to generate new value rather than investing capital to expand our business. We have licensed Nintendo IP and are working together with Universal Parks and Resorts and Universal Studios Japan on this collaborated project. We are also discussing a variety of other developments that would make active use of our IP. So I feel like what he's saying here is like, we're not going to get into the theme park business. We are going to license our properties.
Right.
Like, we're not going to get into the movie business. We're going to license Mario to a company that we trust, in both cases Universal at this point.
Right.
To help expand our business without us moving out of our core competencies.
Right. Without like making the business, expanding the business. Right. That they're going to continue to do what Nintendo does, which is make cool stuff. And then other people can also make cool stuff around it.
Okay. I almost forgot to put this in, but we talked right around after E3 about Panic Button, saying the developer of like Switch ports like Skyrim and Wolfenstein 2, they said that they had another one to announce. And we were all like trying to guess and figure out what it was. And this past week they announced that it's Warframe.
Not GTA 5.
Not GTA 5. Warframe.
Yeah. What is Warframe?
It's a free-to-play, like, third-person shooter, basically, like loot-based shooter. It's has been explained to me as almost like a free-to-play Destiny type game.
Okay, so more loot-based, so not like a hero shooter, like Overwatch.
That's right. So
Okay.
it's like an actual, more just like story-driven type.
So
you can play by yourself. You can play
Okay.
with friends. It's all about like grinding for loot, getting better loot, continually upgrading. It originally launched, I think, on the. I couldn't have been the PS3. That seems too old. It launched.
This game has been around for a while.
So
though.
it launched like
So
a
it might
while
have been.
back. So maybe it was a PS3 and 360 game that when it first came out was like met with middling reviews, but they've just continued. The company's just continued to like iterate on it,
Right.
and do constant updates. And so now it's like a fairly successful phenomenon. It's available on Xbox, PlayStation, PC. Now it'll be on the Switch. The only thing with this is that there's no like cross accounts. So
Right. So it's something that we've been talking about recently with like Fortnite and like PlayStation sort of blocking out cross-play and cross-progression with all the other platforms. That's just never been part of
there's no
Warframe's
cross
DNA.
progression.
Yeah.
And I guess part of that is that like PC, as far as updates go, is like so far ahead of consoles.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't necessarily make sense to have your PC player on consoles or like the other way around. But cool to see that happening.
Bring more free to play, like bring more phenomenon to the Switch. I think that's fine. Although it should be noted that when I saw this headline, I was like, "Oh, Wargroove's finally coming out." No, this is Warframe.
Wargroove is never coming out.
Wargroove will come out.
No, it's the new.
It's the new Pocket
Rumble.
It was in that same Nindies showcase as Pocket Rumble, and now I have Pocket Rumble. I'm very happy with it. I will continue to love it for the rest of my life. Now, where's Wargroove?
In an interview in the Washington Post, Super Smash Bros. Director Masahiro Sakurai says he believes many players gave up on Super Smash Bros. Melee because it was too difficult. Quote, I think a lot of Melee players love Melee, but at the same time, I think a lot of players gave up on Melee because it's too technical, because they can't keep up with it. And I know that there were a lot of players who got tendinitis from playing and messing with the controller so much. I feel like he's projecting a little bit there.
Yeah, that's probably right.
That really is hard on the player, and I feel like a game should really focus on what the target audience is. So what is that target audience? And basically in the interview, he goes on to say that, Nintendo appreciates competitive gaming, but that is not necessarily who they are targeting their game towards. They don't.
Right.
It's not for the hardcore Melee babies.
So Melee babies, it's interesting because like obviously Nintendo has made a lot of steps towards like embracing competitive communities. In the last two E3s, they've had these like multiplayer tournaments based around Splatoon and then also Smash this last year. And was there a Smash tournament the year Smash 4 was announced too? Something like that. They've been embracing these communities a little bit more. So it does feel a little weird for Sakurai to be like, we're not there to create tools for the ultra competitive gamer.
Well, I don't think that's what he's saying.
Okay.
My interpretation of it is that they're not pivoting towards Melee, right? They're not looking to
Yes.
Melee as like, oh, what we need to build is a super technical game that like competitive gamers will really embrace. We're not building our game for competitive players. We are happy when the competitive scene embraces a game that we create. Like Splatoon 2, I think, is a great example of what you were saying, where they did like make it possible for Splatoon 2 to be an esport, but Splatoon 2 itself is super approachable.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's like the line that Nintendo is trying to walk, where it's like, yeah, we love that Smash Brothers is a competitive game, but we're not building our game in a way that like it's not a technical fighter.
Sure. Well, and I wonder like if some of that is just like smoothing out the more like ultra exploitable edges of those games, so that like like wave dashing or what was it in Mario Kart on the DS, that snaking, where you could like drift in ways that just like whipped you around the track. That like taking those things out so that there's not this like level of competitive play that's just galaxies beyond what a normal player can actually accomplish, and sort of just leveling the playing field. Like it feels like that's almost an issue of more careful balance and curation, which I is maybe more consistent with Nintendo's identity anyway.
Yeah, I think the idea is like, instead of maybe building like an overly technical game,
Mm-hmm.
it's allowing people to find the depth in the systems that you are creating,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We talked about this. The Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is out on Switch and 3DS this Friday. You should, of course, tune in on Thursday when we pitch our other occupations that Toad could possibly take.
Hey, who knows what kind of job a Toad has had in the past, and what kind of fun game could spin out of that.
Exactly.
We're gonna find out on Thursday.
But if you're itching to play the new areas, like the Super Mario Odyssey areas, without having to play through the whole game, you can unlock them immediately by using the Wedding Mario, Wedding Peach, and Wedding Bowser amiibo.
So I do think I may do this right away, because I have those amiibo and I have played through this whole game before. So I may just tap them in and play those new levels. And then probably remember that I'm in love with this game and play through the whole thing anyway.
The Toad amiibo will release an invincibility mushroom, and any other amiibo you have, including the breakfast cereal, gives the little guy an extra life.
Do you still have your box of the breakfast cereal?
I do.
So do I. I mean, I ate all the cereal, of course, but I wanted to
I have
keep
the box.
amiibo.
Yep. In a move that may be foretelling the end of the 3DS, developer Alpha Dream, the studio behind the Mario and Luigi games, is recruiting for 2D and 3D artists for work on assets for games on Switch, mobile, and even PS4.
So the reason that this may be foretelling the end of the 3DS is that Alpha Dream and obviously the Mario and Luigi games have only been on Nintendo handhelds. So the Game Boy Advance, the DS, and the 3DS. If they're suddenly recruiting for Switch, it seems like they're probably going to leave the 3DS behind, right?
Which is kind of what we've been hoping for. These a lot of the developers that have been making projects for the 3DS,
right,
moving on to the Switch, and so you get the best of both worlds.
Give
on
me a
one
Grezzo
platform.
game on Switch.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey is due out in 2019.
That is tough to say. Mario and Luigi, Bowser's Inside Story, and Bowser Jr.'s Journey.
It's a lot.
Whew.
Blame it on Bowser Jr.
Mm-hmm. Always.
The summer event for Fire Emblem Heroes has been announced, and it's called Sketchy Summer. And features characters in their bathing suits fighting at the beach.
Okay. What? Why?
Well, we know why.
So here's something that I don't think I have fully been able to grasp, right? Is how much Fire Emblem fandom seems to be centered around just lusting after these characters.
Well,
we've talked a little bit about the waifu thing, yeah.
Well, and it's the internet's joke that Fire Emblem got popular when they leaned into waifu, but I think that the reason that there's truth in that joke.
Yeah.
Like, this series exploded when that's kind of what they leaned into a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, this feels gross, right?
Yeah.
Sketchy Summer feels gross.
Sketchy Summer.
They're calling it Sketchy Summer, which is obviously the worst part. Even if they just called it Sexy Summer, I feel like that would be better, right? Sketchy Summer implies I'm doing something
You're a
wrong.
pervert.
Yeah. I don't want to be a pervert. Not all the time. But like this, the reason that I played Detroit Become Human on the PlayStation 4 was that I was seeing a lot of fan art for a particular pairing in the game, Hank and Connor. And I was like, that's cool. I like this. I like that the fan community has a ship that they're really into. And so like I was led to the game that way. But in this dimension, I mean, it's obviously just because like it's so sexualized and seems so juvenile that I'm like, this is stupid. I'm done with this. Not that I was ever in it to begin with, but like I'm wrestling with how I feel about the fandoms being like so horny about these characters.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm fine with the fandom being horny about these characters.
Sure.
What I think is like what I'm less excited about is Nintendo or the developers being like, yeah, we're going to capitalize.
Yes.
Right? Quiet, shameful horniness is different than using that to like make people buy gotcha coins or whatever.
That's right. Nintendo Cartridge Society supports quiet, shameful lusting after cartoon characters.
Yeah, sure.
As long as it's quiet.
As long as it's quiet. Just don't keep it down for your neighbors. WarioWare Gold, the upcoming 3DS WarioWare game, comes with a new feature where you can redub the game's cutscenes using your own voice.
This is awesome.
This is amazing.
I love this. I remember on Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness, you could change the audio samples that they use for all the character voices when you clicked on them or commanded them to do something. And my friends and I thought this was great. And, we would do like our impressions of Beavis and Butthead, and like the grunts all talk like Beavis and the axe throwers all sound like Butthead. It was awesome. I can't wait to do this with WarioWare.
Too bad there's no good way to share content off of the 3DS.
Yeah, really just no good way.
Like, are you just supposed to take it door to door and like
show it to
your friends?
Excuse me, sir. Do you have a minute to hear my redubbed cutscene for WarioWare Gold?
Finally, to mark Splatoon 2's 1-year anniversary, Nintendo has announced a new global Splatfest taking place Friday, July 20th from 9 p.m. Pacific time to Saturday, July 21st. Also, so it ends at 9 p.m. Pacific time. 24 hours, basically.
24 hours.
You get it. You've heard of a Splatfest before. It's Squid versus Octopus. And during matches, if you're on Team Octopus, you'll be able to play as an Octoling even if you don't have the Octo expansion. Thus, I think guaranteeing that everyone chooses Octolings and they lose.
Yeah, so that seems like a weird choice, right? Like, if you choose Octoling, which I think everyone thinks is cooler anyway because it's like novel, then you also get to play as a character in the multiplayer that you have to like really work to earn by not just buying the Octo expansion, but sufficiently beating it, which I have still not done. Why would anyone choose Squid?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because you're smart and you know that everybody else is going to choose Octoling.
That's right.
So you suffer and do not play as an Octoling, knowing that you will probably win the Splatfest.
Look, so here's what we do. Here's what you and I do. We quietly and shamefully pick Squid. We don't bother anyone about it.
Nope.
We probably don't even play, but we get points anyway for being on what will probably be the winning team.
Yep.
All right, I love it. All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you could please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, that would be lovely. If you like this episode, please share it on social media platforms. It helps us out a bunch.
Check us out on Playing Favorites.
Yes, do that. We talk about The Empire Strikes Back. It's available right now. It's available right now. Do all of that. It's a funny episode. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell. And collectively, we are at Nin Cart Society. The Facebook page is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you like Mark and Mine's opinions, we write about comic books on retconpunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. If you like 8-Bit Betty's music, you can go to 8bitbetty.com, or you can listen right now. For my co-host Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying I don't mean to shame anyone that's into the Fire Emblem
or
waifu.
people from St. Louis.
Right. Maybe we just need to delete this whole episode. We maybe offended too many people. Thanks for listening.
Campfire.